Welcome back to our class. Today we're going to work on our onomatopoeia projects. Hopefully you've already watched the first video, which was a YouTube video explaining the basics of onomatopoeias and their differences and similarities to the word, to interjections. Most of you probably know most of that information as well, but just a quick review. Remember, onomatopoeias are our language trying to simulate an actual sound in the real world. Okay, so the word hey is not doing that. That's actually just a word for people. But the word like slurp is similar to how that sound really is. So you need to be careful that you're picking an actual onomatopoeia for your project. To help you with that, I have a sheet that you can look at. If you want to print it out at home, that's up to you, but you can just look on your sheet. This is not a complete listing of every onomatopoeia out there, but it gives you some of the basic ones to give an idea of what to do. Couple things I need to discuss about this sheet. We'll talk about this first. Is you got to be careful that you spell the word right when using it. So this should have a good sheet of that. You also want to pick ones that you really know what they are. An example, tick-tock is one that people like to use. The problem is tick-tock does not refer to a regular everyday clock. It actually refers to a grandfather clock, specifically the pendulum that swings back and forth. So you can't use tick-tock with a watch because it doesn't actually make that sound. Same thing like here with clip-clop. People like clip-clop. Oh, that's a horse. Well, it's his horse's feet hitting the ground. So if you put the clip-clop near the top or back of the horse, it doesn't make sense there. The sound needs to be coming near the feet. So that's one of the things that people needs to be careful of, is you really need to know what's actually making the sound. And then you're going to be drawing and doing the action for that. Okay? What you're going to need today is you're going to need, this sheet that'll be on your iPad. You're going to want a blank piece of paper, a pencil, and eraser. That's all you're going to need today. And what you're going to do is you're going to fold your paper in half, like a book. And your paper can go up and down or side to side. It doesn't really matter, because what this sheet is your practice sheet. You really do need to do this, because otherwise your ideas can kind of falter when you get to the final version of the project. You're going to pick two onomatopoeias. Okay? So you could pick, let's pick buzz. Buzz is a really common one, and that's why I'm going to pick it that way. It kind of eliminates you guys from using it, because I don't want a copy of my examples that I'm doing here or the examples that I'm about to show you at the end of other students who've done this project. Now, hopefully they'll give you an idea of how to do it better. Like if you can do an idea like, oh, I know how to make that look so much better, then I would let you do it. Or you can do the idea but change it so it looks different than what it was in the original version. So you can get inspired by the examples. So I'll write down buzz. Okay. And I'm going to use the same one. You're actually going to pick two versions of the word, and I'll explain that in a minute. So let's talk about buzz. Typically what you would have is somebody going, well, we need a bee. So I'm going to draw a quick bee. There's a wing, there's a wing. We only have one eye on this side. So an eye, a mouth, some legs, and maybe we're on a flower. And we need to think about, this is the dividing line for the paper there. Where is the word buzz going to go? Is it the bee that makes it, or is it the wing? So in this case, buzz makes more sense next to the wings. Like that. Okay, so I'm just doing a quick version, and you obviously want to put your stripes in there. Okay, so the buzz needs to be by the wing. It also needs to be fairly large, something easy to see. So And I like to use block letters for this because when we make the slightly larger version of this, it's just easier to see the letters in the block letters. Okay. So you want a full picture, it kind of fills the space. You don't want to have a lot of blank area. Okay. And you want the word to be by the action. The other thing you need to do is, because it is action, something that's causing the sound, you're going to need some action lines. So the wings flap, so I'm going to put some action lines. Action lines, I'm going to flip my paper over here, can be all kinds. They can be just straight lines, like if a ball is being thrown, it could be a straight line. But if it was lightning, you might have more of a zigzag. Maybe the lightning, let's turn this into a lightning bolt, but you might have the electricity coming from here. So like that. If you had a cloud of something, you might have a wiggly line or a curlicue line. Okay? So if it's like smoke coming off, or maybe it's a puff of an explosion, like let's say magic, the word poof, then you would have maybe the cloud and some little things coming off, and those will be your action lines. Okay? So remember, you can have different things. So as you can see, I know it's probably a little bit hard, I'll go over. So if you were doing a fire for some reason, it was part of your project, you might have, this might be the smoke or the little embers that fly off on a fire. Okay, so we do need to keep action lines as part of the picture. So this is the common way of doing the project. You find your object, you put the onomatopoeia by the noise, and you draw the rest of the picture. That is perfectly acceptable. I'm totally okay with that. Another way to do that, same thing as buzz, is to change it up again. And the way I change it up is, I'll show you. Okay, so I still have to do the rest of the image here. Okay. So what I've got here is the word buzz, same thing, but now the object becomes the word. So if you think, you might have seen a cartoon show when you're little kids, it's called Word World, where they literally take the word and turn it into whatever object it is. So if it was a tree, they would take the word tree and turn it into what would look like a tree. If it was a frog, it would literally turn into the word hopping around the thing, eating flies. So here I've done basically the same thing. I have taken the object and turned it into a bee, and I would finish out with some stripes and maybe a few more details for the background. Again, I would still need some action lines for the wings, okay? But I would have a picture. So there are multiple ways of doing this the ideas. What I need you to do on your piece of paper is it's very similar. So you're going to do one of two things. I'm going to kind of change it from the way I normally do this project, because you are doing this from home and you have access to the internet to maybe inspire some really cool ideas. So you're going to fold your paper in half, like I said. Okay. You're going to pick an onomatopoeia. So again, it could be buzz. And you're going to come up with your first idea. Again, your paper can go this way or this way, depending on what you need. So pick your idea. Now, that's your first one. You're going to have to come up with a second idea. What I'm going to allow you to do, and I normally don't do this, is you can do what I did, where you do one version like this, and you're like, oh, I got a better idea. I got, like, this is my first idea. It's okay. It'll work. But then you're like, whoa, I can do a totally different way using the same exact word and do something different. Like buzz might work better as a fly. Or maybe you want to use buzz in a different way. You found, okay, I did a bee, that's really easy, but now I can think of maybe a buzzer in a game show, things like that. Okay? So you can reuse the word, but use it totally differently. So I don't want to see two exact copies of the same bee that look exactly the same. I made a major change in this one. Even though it's still on a flower, the buzz is majorly different than what happened here. The other thing, the way I normally do it, is I have you pick one idea and then have you pick another, like whiz, okay? You know, so you have two different totally words and then two different totally pictures. It depends on what you want. As you're going through these images, I'm going to talk about them a little bit. That we've got obviously my versions, but I want to show you the versions that students have done, and I'll point out some really good points on them, and then I may point out maybe some minor things that would be fixed so that you can avoid it. So let's get started, and I'll talk about those pictures in just a second. So here are the student pictures. In this particular one, these are all great images. These are ones students did really, really well on. I will pick apart little things that I want you to try to avoid. For example, in this picture, everything is good except it's floating in the background. Great job coloring, but again, it looks like the cauldron is just floating in no man's land. It would be better to have that on the floor. In this picture, really good. Letters are nice and big and easy to read. Honestly, there's not much wrong. The only thing I can see is maybe the action lines are a little bit hard to see. This one here, again, great idea. I love the fizz and things like that, but the fizz is kind of hard to see, so there's maybe a different color for the fizz, maybe the orange in that. Here, this is a big cool video game reference, and just needing to make the center object much, much bigger, take up more space, less background. And this one here, this is a really good one. The other thing that's kind of hard to see is the action lines, because it can be confused for whiskers. So you want to make sure your action lines are easy to see. This one here is a really good one. Missing action lines. It's a great idea, just missing its action lines. This next one here is also a really good one. The action lines are kind of visible. The click part needs to be a little bit thicker with the action lines around there, but otherwise a good idea. The crash one turned out really good, just need a little less scribble. There's a couple of lines that you could see where you might want to do it in pencil first to make sure you don't make a mistake that you can't undo with marker. This one's a really nice good one as well. The other thing I could see that would need to be is the vroom should probably be in block letters to match the rest of the picture a little bit better. Don't forget to turn in a picture of your practice sheet so I can see it for next week.